Richard, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate you giving us your time today. So Richard Walters is the CTO at Censornet. Censornet is one of our market leading vendors that we work with and we resell here at Concise Solutions. And Richard has written a white paper all around AI, which is called Exposing the Hype, the Role of AI in Cybersecurity. So what I wanted to do today is get Richard on a call and just ask a few questions around the white paper and get his perspective on what you've written, Richard. So Richard, would you mind, for people that don't know who you are, just giving a little bit of background on your experience within cybersecurity?
Yeah, by all means, crikey. So Richard Walters, CTO at Censornet. I've been on board with Censornet for about 5 years. Myself and Ed McNair, our CEO. This is not our first gig together. I think this is now our third cybersecurity company that we've kind of founded and grown. I've been in IT since longer than I care to remember, but since roughly 1987, something like that, which was the year the very first paper on firewalls was written by Digital Equipment Corporation. I was actually working for them at the time. So I've kind of been in cybersecurity right from the start. And then I kind of focused on cybersecurity completely from around 1998, 1999 onwards. So I've got more than 20 years experience in all things cyber.
Fantastic. So very experienced then, obviously, to write a white paper about this trending topic at the minute. So I've just got a few questions that I'd love to ask you. There's something that you mention in the white paper, which is beneficial intelligence. Can you explain a little bit more about what that term means?
Yeah, Natalie, of course. I mean, yeah, we tend to talk about beneficial intelligence as, BI is the new AI in a way. I don't think I can quite claim copyright to that, because I think it might have been Dr. Stephen Hawking that initially said it first. And then when I came up with it, I thought I was being extremely clever, and then Googled it, and of course he beat me to it. So it's all about, really, just because we can doesn't mean we should. So a great example in my mind, at least, is self-driving cars. I don't think any of us would disagree with the fact that on a long motorway journey, it makes sense for the car to take over as you join the slip road. And then let you know when you're approaching your destination junction. I'm just not so sure that we need software making life and death decisions in our towns and villages. And I suppose AI is also accelerating at a staggering rate. It can already write better English than most of us can.
Yeah.
And it's currently learning other languages. AI can also write targeted tweets at 6 times the speed that we can. And, it's been proven they have double the success rate.
Yeah.
Deep fakes are also becoming a major issue. If you get an email that appears to come from the CEO, what if you receive a voicemail from him or her asking you to do something urgently, and the machine generated voice is indistinguishable from the real thing? And that's already happening. So
right.
Not all AI is beneficial. And as we know, this area is going to be, under-regulated for a considerable amount of time, and we're only really catching up around social media and social networking from a legal perspective now. So the law always lags behind technology by years, if not decades. So I think we just need to apply the brakes to some areas of artificial intelligence, because it's so openly available, and of course any AI that's in the public domain, it's available to the good guys and the bad guys.
Sure, that makes sense. So what would you say is a key difference between AI and ML, so that artificial intelligence and machine learning?
Yeah, I'll get into this with my marketing department all the time, actually. Machine learning is a subset of artificial intelligence. So when most people talk about AI, they may not know it, but they are actually referring to ML. Right. And even those of us that are aware of it will still often refer to machine learning as artificial intelligence, as it's just the far more sort of widely understood, accepted term. Right. But there are 2 types of machine learning models. There are supervised models and unsupervised models. And supervised models you train using a labeled data set. This is a list of good things. This is a list of bad things. And then once trained, the model can look at another example of that data in isolation, and based on what it's learnt, it will make a decision on whether it's good or bad, or safe or malicious, I suppose. With unsupervised models, the algorithm attempts to just make sense of a completely unlabeled, uncategorized data set by looking at features and patterns. So when it comes to cybersecurity, and when vendors talk about AI, they really mean supervised ML more often than not. Supervised models tend to be a lot more accurate. And we all know the cost of false positives and false negatives when it comes to security. So that was not a short answer to a short question. Sorry.
Detail is good. Detail is good. So obviously you've touched on this already, but and AI has been, like you said, like AI, I think it's already been around in cybersecurity for a very long time, but it's a really trending topic at the moment within cybersecurity. So what really does AI mean in the cybersecurity world?
Yeah, great question again, Natalie. I mean, some of the algorithms that we're using were written originally in the 1950s, so this is nothing new. But there's no doubt that AI, and let's be specific or accurate, it's really ML that we're talking about. It's already delivering some significant benefits to some of the product segments that exist within the cybersecurity market. So things like behavior analytics, for example, and that might behavior of users or devices or other entities, such as a mailbox or a cloud storage folder or share. That's gained significantly in terms of both performance but also accuracy. Another area, behavior-based antivirus on servers, provides much improved zero-day threat protection versus the kind of antiquated signature-based approach. Fraud detection in banking, insurance, and finance, it's all based on behavior analytics, but that's advanced. Image scanning is another example where accuracy has increased from probably around 50% in the early 2000s to well over 97, 98, 99% now. But AI is still not the magic solution to every security threat or attack. There are some areas of cybersecurity that won't benefit at all from AI or ML. There's just too many vendor marketing teams that have jumped on the bandwagon, really. And there was some research back in 2019, which was carried out by Forbes and a couple of VC firms. They looked at over 2,800 startups in Europe that were classified as AI companies, and they discovered that 40% of them didn't use AI in any material way whatsoever. So there's a lot of hype around it, hence the white paper.
Yeah, of course. So I mean, you've kind of touched on this already, but why do you think AI can be an integral piece of technology when it comes to cyber defense?
It's a tough one. I suppose we've already said AI is only relevant to a subset of cybersecurity tech, really. Not all product segments are going to gain anything from it. So things like application whitelisting, signature-based antivirus, they're not going to benefit from AI or ML. They do what they do. But in some areas, it is already really an integral component. So if you look at user and entity behavior analytics, or UABA, as they'd say on the other side of the puddle, then that's absolutely mainstream at this point, as it is in image scanning these days, because you just don't get the accuracy without it. So I suppose it's also becoming increasingly mainstream in email security. We've got this new generation of email security vendors that are layering over the top of traditional anti-spam, antivirus technologies from an email security perspective, to detect unusual mail conversations, SMTP conversations, and potentially warn users when a sender hasn't previously emailed them at 2 a.m. on a Tuesday morning with a PDF attached. And some vendors call that mailbox intelligence, but be warned, it is very prone to false positives. And I think while some areas or AI use cases, if you think about Amazon Alexa or Siri with Google, they're advancing at an absolutely phenomenal rate. Thing with the cybersecurity market is, yes, there's thousands of vendors, but they're all relatively small. So the market is still quite fragmented. So there's only a very small number of vendors that could pour the billions and billions into AI, in the way that Amazon did with Alexa, for example. So I think AI being truly an integral part of, mainstream security solutions is probably some years away. It's going to take a Google or an Amazon or a Microsoft to make it happen, probably. I mean, we've seen Google announce back in, I think it was August last year, that they're going to be investing 10 billion to advance cybersecurity over the next 5 years, and Microsoft have pledged double that amount. So it will happen, but I think it's still a way out, really.
Yeah. So, and I think you've mentioned this before as well, like obviously with any piece of technology, there's always weaknesses. So, what do you foresee as possible weak points with the use of this kind of ML, within cybersecurity, and how would you approach these gaps to ensure that there's, the stronger defense there?
Yeah. Again, we could talk about this for an hour, but I think I'd be quite wary of unsupervised ML models, certainly using unsupervised ML in anger. You will get false positives, you will get false negatives. Unless you've got a large security operations center, I would more focus on supervised ML, and don't purely rely on ML as a single layer of defense. Use it in conjunction, layer it on top of existing security solutions to enhance them and improve the level of protection and the accuracy of that protection. And just be aware that AI is also itself open to attack. When we build supervised ML models, if you're not very careful about the training and test and dev data sets that you use, it's very easy to introduce bias into the model. Even with a small number of poisoned samples, the impact to accuracy can be high. So you definitely want to make sure that not all of your test data is in the public domain. Make sure that it's the entire test data set is not available to the attacker. We also regularly see some of the most advanced spammer groups trying to throw email filtering off track by reporting massive amounts of spam emails as not spam. Because if they can do that and they can skew the model, the filter, then that improves their campaign success. So if an attacker can gain access to the ML model, then it's much easier for them to reverse engineer it. So black box deployments are your friend there, I suppose. And then lastly, expect the unexpected. You have to, because when it comes to production data, the attacks are the anomalies, and so you want to be able to spot them.
Brilliant. Well, listen, Richard, that's been really insightful. Like we said, there's the white paper there that's available for people to read, Exposing the Hype, the Role of AI in Cybersecurity, to read up on more. But thanks so much for your time, and yeah, look forward to looking for more white papers from you soon.
Thank you, Natalie.